right? So for interfaces, we'll study interfaces now, why they are used and what is the practical application of interfaces with Selenium, right? I'll make a new project over here for today. Okay, I'll call that project as day 3. All right, now we know that we have got different drivers for every browser we are using in Selenium. Okay, so over here in the last class I had told you about Firefox driver, Chrome driver, iDriver and all. So if you have got different drivers for every browser which you use, okay, does that mean that you will have to write separate code for every browser? Because if you want to access Firefox, you'll have to create the object of Firefox driver, and then with Firefox driver you will have to call the functions on Firefox driver. If you want Chrome driver or iDriver, then on Chrome or iDriver you'll have to call the respective functions. Right. So will you have different browsers at different times? Like will you write a separate code for every browser? So the answer to that is no, and it comes because of the concept of interfaces. Alright, so what do you mean by interface? Okay, look, the thing is, let me create an interface first and then I'll tell you in Java. Right, hold on, just a minute. It is hanged. Okay, fine, it is fine. So out here, if I right click over here and go to new interface, I can create the interface known as, for example, interface car. Okay, I'll make an interface. I'm sorry. I'll make an interface known as car. Okay. Now, what do you mean by interface? I never created a class. I created an interface. Look, every every book. If you go and buy a book on in the market, if you go to the market and if you try to buy a book, then every book will have a cover face. By looking at that cover face, you will understand that what this book is offering you, what this book is about. Okay, whether it is for you or not. So that cover face of the book is like an interface, right, which will tell you what the book is offering you. Okay, right, that is like an interface to you which will tell you what the book is offering you. Fine. So it will not tell you exactly whether it will be good or bad or whether you will like it or not like it, but it gives you a fair idea. Right. So similarly, interfaces are there in Java which give you an idea that what system they are doing, what the system is supposed to do. Fine. And you can get an idea with the interface that what this car is going to offer you. Okay, right. So the interface car will be something like this. You can write over here public void start, public void stop. These two function declarations I have done. In interfaces, you will only have function declarations. You cannot give the function bodies. You can only declare your functions in the interface. Okay, you will never give a body. Interfaces are incomplete. Okay, they are like the cover face of the book, with the index of the book, which tell you that what the car will be offering you. Right. Suppose I make a new class over here, right, known as say Maruti car. Then in Java, what we do is that we write public class Maruti car implements car. When you write implements car, okay, so what do you mean by that? Implements car? By saying that it implements car, it is mandatory for this class. You see the error is coming, right? You see the error is coming, right? So if you write over here Maruti car implements car, this means that this car will mandatorily have to implement all the functions of the car interface. Okay, you move the mouse over the error and you will see add unimplemented methods. This feature will be there. Okay, and you add the unimplemented method. So you will have to implement all the functions which were declared in the car interface in the Maruti car. It is mandatory. Even if you try to skip one of them, it will throw an error. You have to mandatorily implement all the functions. What is the use of this? I will tell you, but understand the concept right now. This sign @ override means that this function is coming up from the car interface. Okay, right. So out here, um, if you remove this @ override sign, it will not make a difference. This is just like a marker. This is known as an annotation. You can remove it, right? You can remove it as well. It is there to just make you realize that this function is coming from this interface. If a layman looks at your code, he will come to know that this function is coming from the interface, right? So out here inside this, I can write Maruti car starting, and I can write over here Maruti car stopping. Similarly, I can create a new class over here known as say Ford car, and this new class will also implement the car interface. If this class is implementing the car interface, okay, then it should be mandatorily. If this class is implementing the car interface, then it becomes mandatory for this class to implement all the functions of the car interface. Okay, so you will have to move the mouse over the error and select the option add unimplemented methods. So both the methods will be implemented. It is mandatory for the class to implement all the functions, right? Ford car starting, and you can write Ford car stopping. Okay, right? So out here you have got what is the scenario like? The scenario is something like, hold on, you have got right, uh, hold on, yes, you have got a situation like this, right? Out here you have got one interface. This interface is the car interface, and two other classes, okay, concrete classes. They are implementing this car interface. Okay, the names are Maruti car and Ford car, right? So whatever are the functions in this car interface, start and stop, will be there inside both the classes. Okay, right, fine. So what is the advantage of doing this? I could have never made this car interface. I could have directly made Maruti car and Ford car. That's it. What is the advantage of doing this? The advantage is that by doing this, you kind of, define a structure for the complete application. Tomorrow, if a new car has to come, then you will know what kind of functions will be there in that car. Although the implementation might vary, the implementation will be different for every car class. Okay, but the function list will remain the same. Okay, you can implement the functions, start and stop in your way, but the names of the functions will remain the same across all the cars. I hope you got my point. Right. So in Selenium also we use interfaces. If you go to the official website of Selenium, if you go to Selenium HQ and if you go to the download section, sorry, and you will find that this is the Java doc, the Java documentation, and in this whatever is written in italics is an interface. Okay, for example, this mouse is an interface, and all of these are the implementing classes for the interface. These are the functions in the mouse interface. Okay, and all these functions will be implemented in these implementing classes. This is just an idea: click, context, click, mouse move, mouse down, mouse up, right? So similarly, you have the interface over here known as WebDriver. It is written in italics. Everything written in italics is an interface. Okay, so WebDriver technically is an interface and it is the main interface. Okay, in Selenium architecture, the architecture of Selenium starts with this interface, WebDriver. Alright, and all the driver classes, Chrome driver, Edge driver, Firefox, Remote, Internet, okay, Safari, Opera, so all the driver classes are implementing this interface. And this interface has got few major functions defined which can help you interact with the browser and the elements in the browser. Okay, so all these implementing classes will have the same set of functions as defined by the WebDriver interface, because all the implementing classes have the same functions as the interface, right? So similarly, you don't have to worry that if you have to click on a link in Chrome, will the command be different than I or not? The commands will always be same. Okay, right? If I make a new class over here, or if I go to the previous class, open testcar.java, which we had made. Okay, we had these three drivers, right, which I had told you that day: Firefox driver, Chrome driver and iDriver, right? The functions in Firefox driver the same functions will be there in Chrome driver, and the same functions will be there in iDriver, because all these three classes you cannot hear me? Are you able to hear me? Okay, it was a temporary issue. Okay, I will repeat myself. Alright, I'll repeat myself. You can also use Skype to communicate, because I get an instant notification on Skype. Okay, so what I was telling you was that interface WebDriver is the main interface in Selenium API. All of the driver classes, they implement this interface. Okay, so all the driver classes, they have the same set of functions, and this interface defines methods which are very common methods to interact with the browser. Okay, so if you have to say, for example, if you have to write in a text field on Chrome browser, the command will be same to write in a text field in Chrome browser as the command will be there in Firefox. Okay, so the commands are same in all the driver classes. Okay, because all the driver classes, they are implementing the WebDriver interface. If you look at the code which we had made on day 2, this was the code. I hope everybody is able to see my screen and hear me clearly. Right. This was the code which we made in the last class. We created the objects of Firefox driver, Chrome driver and iDriver. Now the functions which are there in Firefox driver, the same functions will be there in the Chrome driver class, and the same set of functions will be there in the iDriver class. Okay, so you don't have to worry that if you have to click on a link on Chrome or Firefox or what will be the command. The commands are all same. Okay, the commands are all same, you don't have to worry. Right, so the classes are different but the commands are same because they implement the same interface. Okay, now let me make a new class over here and call it as dynamic browsers. What I am going to do is that I am going to create a variable over here, say string browser equals to Mozilla. Look, out here I have written string browser equals to Mozilla. Now the thing is, based on this parameter, I want my script to run on the browser. Later on we'll read the value of browser from an external file such as say XLS file or a properties file, but right now I'm hard coding. So whatever is the value of my browser, the script should run on that browser. Okay, so if you think about it, you can simply write if else statements. You can write over here if browser is equal to Mozilla, then you can write the code to run this on Mozilla. Just a minute. Okay, right, else if browser is equal to Chrome, you can write the code to run it on Chrome. Otherwise Okay, else if browser is equal to I, you can write the code to run it on I. Okay, I'll include the jar files of Selenium in the project. Okay, the jar files of Selenium are not there. Fine. So you will have to make a script like this. But does this make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to make or to build a script like this, because I am writing different set of code for every browser. For Mozilla, I am writing a different set of code. For Chrome, I am writing different set of code. For I am writing different set of code. If I will I be writing different code if I have to interact with the web page over here? I have to click on a link or enter values in text fields or submit forms. Will I write the code separately for every browser? The commands in all the three drivers are same. That I agree. I just told you. But the references over here are different. Okay. The object reference for Firefox is empty. For Chrome, this is the one, and for I, this is the one. So we are again stuck in a problem that how do you dynamically open the browser and write a single piece of code which can run on all the browsers. Okay. So over here again the concept of interfaces, they help you. Okay. It helps you, right? How does the concept of interfaces, it helps you over here? I'll just make a new class known as, say, test car again with the main function. Now what we have over here is that, let us go back to interfaces. We had this car interface which I had created, and there were two other classes, Ford car and Maruti car. Ford car and Maruti car, both of them were implementing this interface. Okay, so in the interface, first of all, if I try to create the object of interface, if I write over here new car, you cannot do that. You cannot create the objects of interfaces. It is illegal. Okay, you cannot create the object of interfaces. Interfaces are abstract. They are incomplete. Okay, so you cannot create the objects of interfaces. You can create the object of the implementing classes. You can write over here Maruti car m equals to new Maruti car, and you can write over here Ford car f equals to new Ford car. You can create the objects of the implementing classes, and you can call the respective functions on them. I can write Maruti car dot start, Maruti car dot stop, and I can call Ford car dot start and Ford car dot stop. So when I run this code, it prints Maruti car starting, stopping, and Ford car starting and stopping respectively. Okay, it is but obvious and pretty simple. Now if the Ford car says that fine, it's got its own implementation of a function which is only there in Ford cars, for example public void say GPS. GPS is a function which is proprietary function of a Ford car. It is not coming up from the car interface. Okay, right. So you can call this function on the object of Ford car. You can write Ford car dot GPS as well. This will not be there in the Maruti car. This is something which is owned by Ford car. Okay. Okay. Now coming over to our problem of dynamically opening the browser, that how will you dynamically open the browser? How will interfaces help over here? Now listen to this carefully, whatever I am going to do. Most of the people, they get confused. I am going to create the object like this. Car C1 equals to new Ford car. This is a different way. Earlier I used to create the reference of the class equated to the object of the class. Out here I have created reference of the interface. Okay, this is interface reference equated to object of class which is implementing the interface. Okay, how is this line different from this line? How are lines A and lines B, they are different? The difference is that with C1 I can access all the functions of the Ford car which are coming up from the car interface, not the proprietary functions. I cannot call C1 dot GPS. This will throw me error. With C1 I can only access the functions in the Ford car which are coming from the car interface, not the proprietary functions. Then what is the advantage of this? I'll come over to this, just be with me. I can also write car C2 equals to new, say Maruti car. So what will this do? With C2 you can access the functions in the Maruti car which are coming up from the car interface. I can write C2 dot start, C2 dot stop. I can do that. Okay, let me put it. So when you run this code, it will print for starting and for stopping over here because of these two lines, and Maruti starts starting and stopping because of these two lines. Now the interesting thing is that on the next line I can also write C2 equals to new Ford car. I can move C2 from Maruti car to Ford car, and I can again call C2 dot start and stop. This will call the functions of the Ford car. Out here C2 was calling functions of the Maruti car. The same reference of car interface I can move across. If I run this, you see that Maruti car starting, stopping, Ford car starting, stopping. Got my point? Right. Anybody with any questions? No questions till now? So I can make C2 point towards either of the implementing classes. C2 is the reference of car interface. It can point towards any class which is implementing the car interface. I can declare like this, say car C equals to null. That means C is not pointing towards any object right now. Based on my requirement, I can make C point towards object of Maruti car, or I can make C point towards object of Ford car. Okay, C is null, it is not pointing anywhere. Based on my requirement, I can make C point towards Maruti car, Ford car, any object. Okay, right. Now everybody knows that I told you just now WebDriver is an interface, and all the driver classes, they are implementing the interface WebDriver. So out here If I create the object like this, say Firefox driver equals to new Firefox driver, or Chrome driver equals to new Chrome driver. Instead of creating the objects like these, I can also write say WebDriver over here. The interface reference. Interface WebDriver. Hold on. I can write say interface WebDriver driver equals to new Firefox driver. Maybe on the next line I can make driver point towards the object of new Chrome driver. Because both these driver classes, they are implementing the WebDriver interface. It is just like Maruti car and Ford car implementing the car interface. Both Firefox driver as well as Chrome driver, they are implementing the WebDriver interface. So maybe I can declare driver equals to null, and based on my requirement, just like we did over here, we can make the driver point towards the object of Firefox driver or Chrome driver based on my requirement. Okay. Anybody with any questions? Anyone with any questions? Right. So over here the browser is Mozilla. So what we can do is that we can declare WebDriver driver equals to null. So based on which browser I want, I can make my driver point towards that browser. Okay, and these lines I can remove. Right, and once the browser is opened, when you are at this line, the browser will be opened. Out here I am taking the browser as Mozilla, so if I run this code, my Mozilla browser will open up. If you run this code, you see that. Hold on. You see Mozilla will open up. And if I make this to Chrome, then my Chrome browser will open up. So I just have to change one variable and my browser will open, the respective browser. Right. You see that Chrome opens up right now. And over here you can fire the driver commands. For example, driver.get. All the commands in all the three drivers will be same. Say gmail.com. And maybe you want to print the title of the page. You can write driver.get title. After that, maybe you have to close your browser. You can write driver.quit. In between, maybe you want to interact with the web page. Okay, the commands will be the same. Once the browser is opened, whether you are using Firefox driver, Chrome driver, Write driver, all the drivers will have the same commands. All of them will be coming from the WebDriver interface. Okay, I won't go more than this for today. Okay, I have covered interfaces. Right, WebDriver is an interface, driver Selenium. How to interact with the web page, I'll take it up with you tomorrow. So I hope you have understood this point. Have a look at the recording after the class. I will be uploading the recording in your batch ID, and whatever code I have made, also that code I will be uploading in your batch ID.